You think staying silent after she hurt you made you weak, cold, forgettable. But the truth is, your silence did what your pleading never could. It forced reality to enter the room. You thought you needed one more message, one more explanation, one more perfect sentence to make her understand what she did to you. You thought closure would come from being heard. You thought your pain needed a witness to become valid. But here's the part that stings. The moment you stopped chasing understanding, the entire power dynamic changed. Because when you stayed silent, you stopped feeding the version of herself that expected access to you no matter how badly she handled you. And if you need truth like this in your life on a regular basis, subscribe now, because you do not need more soothing lies. You need reminders strong enough to pull you back into self-respect. Here's what it really means when your silence broke her ego. It does not mean you won. It does not mean silence is a trick, a game, or some manipulative strategy to make somebody obsess over you. It means you finally removed your energy from a place where it was being misused. It means you stopped volunteering your dignity to somebody who thought your loyalty would survive any level of disrespect. That is the thesis. Not revenge, not punishment, consequence, reality, self-relimation. The misconception is this: you think speaking more proves strength. You think explaining more proves maturity. You think if you are calm enough, kind enough, patient enough, emotionally articulate enough, then the person who hurt you will suddenly become capable of holding the truth. But that is fantasy. The hard truth is that many people do not feel the weight of what they have done while they still have unlimited access to you. As long as you are still there, still available, still clarifying, still responding, still offering your presence after they shattered your trust, they do not have to sit with the full cost of their behavior. Why would they? Your presence keeps softening the consequences. That's why silence hits differently. Not childish silence, not passive-aggressive silence, not performative silence designed to bait a reaction. Real silence, clean silence. The kind that comes from seeing the truth clearly and refusing to bargain with it anymore. The kind that says without saying a word, "You had access to me and you mishandled it." That kind of silence is heavy because it removes the cushion. It removes the emotional supply. It removes the stage. It removes the false belief that you will always be there to absorb confusion, disrespect, mixed signals, or emotional carelessness. And that is what cracks the ego, because ego feeds on assumptions. She assumed you would explain again. She assumed you would stay emotionally available. She assumed you would turn your pain into a speech and your boundaries into another debate. She assumed your care for her was stronger than your respect for yourself. She assumed she could wound you and still feel chosen. Then you went quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you finally understood that saying more to someone committed to misunderstanding you is not communication. That's called self-abandonment. Read that again in your mind. Not communication. Self-abandonment. Why does this happen? Root cause. Because too many men confuse emotional endurance with self-respect. You were taught to stay calm, be patient, hear her out, try again, don't overreact, don't be insecure, don't be harsh, don't walk away too quickly. And yes, some of that matters. But somewhere along the line, you were also taught to tolerate what should have disqualified access. You were taught to over-explain your pain to people who benefited from minimizing it. You were taught that staying available makes you noble. No. Sometimes staying available makes you complicit in your own disrespect. And when a man forgets that, he starts shrinking. He starts negotiating with the obvious. He starts doubting what he felt in real time. He starts calling betrayal confusion, calling disrespect miscommunication, calling emotional inconsistency a hard season, calling the collapse of trust something we can talk through one more time. No. Say the word correctly. If she knew what mattered to you and violated it anyway, that's called disregard. If she kept taking from your emotional stability while giving back uncertainty, that's called extraction. If she only felt your value once your presence was gone, that's called entitlement being interrupted. And what did it cost you before you learned this? It cost you your center, your sleep, your focus, your appetite for your own life. It cost you peace in the gym, sharpness at work, patience with your family, presence in your own body. It cost you hours replaying conversations that should have become conclusions. It cost you the masculine steadiness that comes from knowing where you stand. Because nothing drains a man faster than trying to earn clarity from someone who profits from keeping things blurry. That is the cost. You stop trusting your instincts. You stop honoring your standards. You stop listening to the tension in your chest. You stop calling disrespect by its name. You stop being decisive. You stop protecting your time. You stop acting like your energy is valuable. And then you wonder why you feel weak. Because when you keep overriding your own inner signal just to preserve connection, your nervous system learns a terrible lesson. Your boundaries are negotiable. That's called internal betrayal. And internal betrayal is always more damaging than heartbreak. Heartbreak wounds you. Internal betrayal rewrites you. It teaches you not to trust yourself. It teaches you to second-guess pain, rationalize what should repel you, and remain in places where your spirit keeps asking to leave. That is why your silence was not the problem. Your silence was the correction. The correction came late, maybe, but it came. Now understand the deeper reframe. Your silence did not break her because it was cruel. It broke the version of reality where she could hurt you and still assume uninterrupted access. It broke the illusion that your heart had no threshold. It broke the fantasy that your love meant endless tolerance. It broke the ego's favorite lie. He'll be here no matter what. No, not anymore. And that does not make you bitter. It makes you awake. There is a kind of man who understands this without becoming hard in the wrong way. He is not dramatic. He is not spiteful. He is not obsessed with proving that he can detach. He does not use silence as theater. He does not disappear to manipulate. He does not confuse self-respect with emotional punishment. He simply knows that access to him is a privilege, not a guarantee. He speaks clearly when clarity is possible. He leaves clearly when clarity is being exploited. He does not beg to be valued. He watches patterns. He trusts behavior. He honors what he sees. That man is grounded. He can feel grief without chasing the source of it. He can miss her without dishonoring himself. He can love someone and still admit that love is not enough where respect is absent. He can hold the ache without turning it into another argument, another paragraph, another midnight confession that hands away his leverage, his dignity, his peace. He does not need the last word because he has something better, the last standard. And standards are stronger than speeches. He knows the difference between presence and access, the difference between compassion and permission, the difference between understanding someone and excusing them, the difference between being emotionally available and being emotionally consumable. That last one matters because a lot of men are not in love. They are being consumed, their energy, their patience, their reassurance, their strength, their steadiness, consumed by someone who mistakes consistency for weakness because she has never seen a man who can leave without hatred. Be that man, not for her, for you. Stop romanticizing your own over-explaining. Stop treating your emotional availability like proof of character when it is crossing into self-neglect. Stop reaching for one more conversation after the pattern has already testified. Stop giving language to what reality has already made obvious. Stop checking whether she finally understands. Some people only understand your value when your absence removes the illusion of control. Do this instead. Get quiet, but get honest. Not numb. Honest. Admit what happened. Admit what it cost you. Admit where you stayed too long. Admit where you kept hoping instead of seeing. Then redirect. Put your body back under discipline. Lift. Walk. Train. Sleep on time. Eat clean. Return structure to your days. Clear your phone of what keeps reopening the wound. Stop revisiting her pages, her signals, her half-meanings, her digital shadows. Stop interviewing the past like it still owes you a future. Then rebuild your attention. Attention is life. Where your attention goes, your identity follows. If all your attention stays on the person who hurt you, you remain spiritually arranged around the injury. No, rearrange yourself around purpose, around work, around your body, around your standards, around the men who sharpen you, around the mission that existed before her and will outlast her. You do not heal by staring at the blade. You heal by removing it, cleaning the wound, and becoming harder to cut in the same place again. And let's get something straight. Silence is not enough by itself. A lot of men go silent outside while staying mentally loud inside. They stop texting, but they keep fantasizing. They keep rehearsing imaginary reunions, imaginary apologies, imaginary moments where she finally sees what she lost and breaks down exactly the way their ego wants. That is not healing. That's just silent obsession. That's called emotional dependence wearing a tougher face. Real silence is internal, too. You stop feeding the story. You stop checking for evidence that you mattered. You stop needing her regret to validate your worth. You stop making your recovery dependent on her realization. That is power. Because the truth is, maybe she regrets it, maybe she doesn't. Maybe your silence unsettled her. Maybe it bruised the part of her that assumed control. Maybe it exposed how much of her confidence came from your continued presence. But none of that can be the point. The point is not to break her. The point is to stop breaking yourself. That is the shift. You are not withdrawing to create pain. You are withdrawing to stop participating in your own erosion. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. You are not punishing her. You are protecting what is left of you and then rebuilding what should never have been handed over so cheaply in the first place. So if you're sitting in that tension now, wondering whether you should reach out, wondering whether silence makes you immature, wondering whether one more attempt would prove your heart is pure, ask the harder question, harder but cleaner. Has she earned continued access to the most loyal parts of you? Not your nostalgia, not your attraction, not your loneliness, your loyalty. Has she earned it? If the answer is no, then act like a man who believes his own answer. Hold the line, not because it feels good. It won't always. Some nights it will feel brutal. Some mornings you will want relief more than dignity. Some hours your chest will ache for the familiar, even if the familiar was harmful. That is normal. Missing what hurt you is not evidence that it was right for you. It is evidence that attachment can survive where peace cannot. Do not confuse craving with alignment. Do not confuse chemistry with safety. Do not confuse history with destiny. Hold the line. And while you hold it, build. Build the version of you that no longer sees silence as emptiness, but as space. Space to think, space to recover, space to remember who you were before you started explaining yourself into exhaustion. Space to become the kind of man whose self-respect is not situational. The kind of man who does not need chaos to feel desired. The kind of man who can be deeply loving without becoming easy to handle badly. That man does not chase closure from damaged hands. He creates closure through decision. He does not need her to say, "You were right." He becomes so rooted that being right matters less than being free. He does not turn pain into performance. He turns pain into refinement, into sharper standards, into cleaner instincts, into stronger boundaries, into a quieter life. That can be you. You can be the man who no longer confuses access with intimacy. The man who no longer hands out emotional labor to people who have not demonstrated emotional responsibility. The man who no longer mistakes being needed for being respected. The man who no longer turns every injury into another opportunity to abandon himself politely. So stand still for a second and hear this clearly. The silence that followed your hurt was not empty. It was the first honest thing that happened after too much pretending. It was your nervous system finally saying enough. It was your dignity stepping back into the room. It was your standard speaking in the only language left that still had integrity. Not noise, not drama, not threats, distance. And if that shook her ego, that is not because silence is cruel. It is because ego hates losing access to what it assumed it could wound without consequence. Let that lesson change you. Not into a colder man, into a cleaner one. Not into a suspicious man, into a discerning one. Not into a man who fears love. Into a man who knows love without respect is a trap with beautiful language. Not into a man obsessed with being missed. Into a man committed to never abandoning himself again. This is your identity reset. You are not the man who has to explain his pain perfectly to deserve basic respect. You are not the man who has to stay available just because he still cares. You are not the man who mistakes endurance for self-worth. You are not the wound. You are not the waiting. You are not the unanswered message. You are not the confusion. You are the decision. You are the standard. You are the line that finally got drawn. You are the man who can feel deeply and still walk straight. You are the answer. So protect your attention. Protect your body. Protect your peace. Tell the truth about what happened. Stop romanticizing what dishonored you. Redirect your energy into your mission, your health, your craft, your circle, your future. And if you want more truth like this, more clarity, more discipline, more reminders that pull you back into yourself, subscribe, because this is where you come when you are done lying to yourself. Stay here, stay sharp, Stay with this community of men choosing self-respect over confusion and become someone your silence no longer has to defend.